Full Press Hockey Coverage with Jim Biringer.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is the Full Press NHL Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Biringer, the voice of Full Press Hockey. I'm joined by Russ Cohen. You saw us at the Stanley Cup Final. Quick hit after Game 6. He's with Sportsology.com and NHLDraftBots.com. Off the Post Podcast, up on YouTube, as well as you hear him with Mick Kern, SiriusXM on Tuesdays. Russ, thanks for doing this today.
Anytime, Jim. How's it going?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
Yeah, good. Going good.
That's good to hear. We're back. Stanley Cup Final in the books. We talked about it after Game 6 on the ice when we were both there.
Yep.
The Florida Panthers repeat as Stanley Cup champions. But the big thing that stood out to me was that how they just systematically took and wore down the Edmonton Oilers from Game 1 to Game 6.
Yeah, I mean, they were going to do that. It's not like that couldn't have been predicted. Didn't mean it was going to happen, and it wasn't happening for a while. And honestly, I think if things were coached a little different, they were a little better personnel. That's, it is a little shot at the GM. They did some things, but they didn't all work out. Arvidsson was not a great pickup. I'm not a big fan. Those kinds of things, yeah, they probably could have done better. Would Florida have still won? Maybe, probably. But it could have been a longer series. So yeah, I think it would have been less dominating. I would go that route.
So, you mentioned it, the personnel, and it goes back to July 1st for me with the Edmonton Oilers. Jeff Jackson is doing stuff that general manager is supposed to be doing because Kenny Holland's not renewed. Stan Bowman doesn't come in until after free agency, and then he has to go right into the Philip Broberg, Dylan Holloway, just Dylan Holloway offer sheets. It's like you probably should have had somebody in there July 1st.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been better for sure. They gave away both guys. Like, that's however you want to look at it, they did. I think that Broberg did a little better than I thought he would. Holloway did exactly what I thought he would. Holloway, I always knew, had this ability. Broberg, I was like, can he play defensively? I knew his offense was there. And he did pretty well. So, yeah, this was something where was this the reason? No, I don't think this was the reason, but it is a contributing factor.
You looked at it, Game 6. You talked about it the day of the game before the puck dropped earlier that day with Mick, as I mentioned on SiriusXM. The flip-flopping of the goaltending for the Edmonton Oilers, right? We saw Calvin Pickard come in Game 4. Edmonton rallies to win. They go with Pickard in Game 5. It's not his fault that they lost, but then they go back to Stuart Skinner. Don't think that was the right move.
No, I didn't think so because it's like, okay, first thing off, Pickard was the guy until he got hurt. And so then the other guy was back to being the guy. But I'm always the believer that you shouldn't lose your job if it's due to injury. And it was due to injury. So I was thinking, okay, Cal Pickard would get back in. He did. Wasn't the reason they lost the game. So why switch again? Like, what did you expect to get out of Stuart Skinner? Clearly he didn't live up to expectations the last time, and he wouldn't have pulled him. I mean, sometimes goalies do get pulled for, hey, we got to make a change, momentum, whatever. But Stuart Skinner is a little bigger story than just that. And so my feeling was, okay, I had said to Mick, well, if he goes down 2-0 in the first, this series is over. Like, yeah, he has to know that. Chris Knobloch has to know that. And I can't believe that it literally went to that script, but it did.
Yeah, I know. It's unbelievable, right? And the Oilers actually came out and played a really good first half of the first period. I know they were down 1-0 about 6 minutes in. I mean, Reinhart made a great move, one of first of 4 goals that he had in the game. But I thought they were aggressive. And then they kind of put McDavid and Draisaitl together. And like you mentioned it before, overcoaching, overmanaging. We hear that term a lot, especially in baseball, right? Managers overmanage. After Game 4, you tinker with the lineup. You move Matthias Ekholm to the left side. There were things, to me, you win Game 4 the way you came back and won Game 4. I'm not saying they're going to win the series the next 2, but that should have been a series-changing game for the Edmonton Oilers to where they started playing their best hockey. And then you tinker with the lineup. That's not what a winning hockey coach does.
No, I mean, I was thinking that. Then I'm listening to the radio on Sirius. I heard Dennis Bernstein talking about it. And I was just like, yeah, that's the way I was feeling. He said what I was feeling. And, again, I go to this is the one thing coaches usually do right. If you just won, you shouldn't make any changes unless somebody's hurt. somebody's hurt, fine. If not, I get not making any changes. That's why I was like, why are you doing that? You may finally have wrestled momentum away, and then you gave it back.
Yeah, no, they did. And obviously, all season long, we talked about the Oilers, right? Their depth scoring in the playoffs. That depth maybe wasn't there because Zach Hyman gets hurt. I'm not saying that's a contributing factor to why they lost, because Florida clearly was the better team, and the better team won the series, and the better team is back-to-back Stanley Cup champions, which we'll get to in a minute. But you don't have Hyman. Clearly, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins was not 100%. He's dealing with an injury. The defense is banged up, and the goaltending is an issue. And now you look at it and you say, all right, well, yeah, Connor and Leon need to do their thing. But the reason Connor and Leon were able to dominate in Dallas series was because the depth scoring was there, and that disappeared in the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, I mean, there were some things you could learn from warm-ups, right? And the first thing we were looking at was Nugent-Hopkins, and it took him a long time to even kind of goof around with the puck and finally take 1 or 2 shots on net, and that's all he took. And so you knew that, yeah, he's really banged up. And then, on the flip side, I covered Bob a long time in Philly, not that long, but, know him enough that I've seen him enough games, and I was shocked that he was still warming up with like 42 seconds to go in warm-ups. Like, no goalie does that. He doesn't do that. And so, but the one thing I know about Bob, and that's because I got to know, him a bit, is he likes the work. And if he's at that point mentality-wise where he is wanting the work, you can't stop him. It's so hard to stop him. And so I knew he was in that mode where he wanted the work.
Yeah, no, and it proved to be a factor in that game, right? Bobrovsky got better with the series went on, but in Game 6, he was dialed in. We talked about it before the game. We're saying the only way the Oilers really win this game is if Bob has an off game, and neither one of us really saw it coming. No. And the way he took the work and the warm-ups, you pointed that one out, and I was like, yeah, that's kind of weird for a starting goaltender to be out there that long. Usually he bails with like 5 minutes left. He doesn't they don't even stay out there that long. And then
they come off the ice.
Yeah, right away. And then you see him do that. And then the save on McDavid, the shot from Bouchard, the way he was aggressive, moving the puck. It was, okay, it's going to be a long night for the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, and they tried to make changes, and they had been very good at making changes, but no, they couldn't figure it out. They couldn't solve it, except, Chris Knobloch definitely pulled the goalie too soon. Like, it made no sense. You and I were like really shocked at that. Like, what are you doing? There's plenty of time in this game. It's not like you're down 12 goals. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, 3-0 and pull a goalie with 6 minutes left. Reinhart pots 2 empty nets and the game's over. And then they scored with like 3 minutes left in the third period. I'm like, oh, imagine if you didn't pull the goalie. Like, you would have been able 2 goals down.
You might have scored with like, I don't know, a minute 45 or something. And then you at least have some sort of chance. Maybe you score with 2 minutes to go. Who knows?
Yeah, but they didn't give themselves a chance. No. They basically just looked tired, fatigued. They gave. I don't want to say they gave up because they tried, but after the game, you heard them say, "Hey, they were the better team. We didn't really have a lot of answers." Connor McDavid didn't come out and say coaching, but he's like, "We're banging our head again."
At it.
Yeah, but he did because he's like, "We're banging our heads against the wall, doing the same thing." And we said it. Chris Knobloch overmanaged. He got outcoached by Paul Maurice, who pushed all the right buttons in this series. And the Florida Panthers deserve to win back-to-back Stanley Cups. I mean, the additions Bill Zito made, the guys that come into the lineup, they just looked like a unit ready to win.
And Bill Zito's humble, man. I mean, he could have been out there like, yep, I did it. I did it again. I know what I'm doing. He didn't do any of that. He was the opposite of that.
Yeah, he's crediting the owner, crediting the players, the work, the staff, everybody else except himself. And it's good to see that because, he gets a lot of flack because, no state income tax and there's an advantage. But I always point to the moves that he made. Well, did Sam Reinhart get traded from Buffalo because of that? Same with Tkachuk and Bennett and the Gustav Forsling pick off of waivers.
Yeah, I mean, come on. It's a lot more than just state tax. State tax is a small factor, though. It is. You'd be lying if you didn't say it's a factor, because it is. But it's not like to the degree people are saying it is. Sometimes these teams are that good because they have good people getting the right players. That means the pro scouts. That means the GM. That means the assistant GM. Like all of them. And that's what it takes sometimes.
No, it does in Florida. I mean, just throughout the entire playoffs. Yeah, the Leafs pushed them, but they were just so dominant on the road. The addition of Brad Marchand, Sam Bennett, 15 goals in the Stanley Cup playoffs, the Conn Smythe Trophy winner. It just seemed like they played as a team. They understood. And I listened to what Matthew Tkachuk said and Paul Maurice said on Monday before the game on Tuesday, and they had the morning skates and everything. And they said, we've been here before. We understand. We're going to play it like a game 7. We've gone through this before. And it showed from the drop of the puck. I mean, they were nervous a little bit. There were some uncharacteristic Florida Panthers things that were done. But to me, they went in there knowing, hey, we're not going back to Edmonton for game 7.
Well, oh, yeah, absolutely. I talked to Etu Lustrainen about that. And, I asked him if it was a harder path. And he said, no, it was easier because we played all the hard teams. So we knew, and it wasn't that this wasn't going to be hard. They knew Edmonton was hard, but they figured the hardest path was the best path. And I was just like, wow, like they really just wanted it, like they wanted the best challenges, the biggest challenge, and they got it. Like that was they exceeded at that. They excelled. But I just want to say to the fans that are trying to say that non-players shouldn't be hoisting the cup, like maybe the assistant GM, maybe scouts, maybe the analytics people, they all deserve to hoist the cup. It is a team effort. So to those people,
you're part of the team. You're part of the organization. That name is on the Stanley Cup.
Everybody plays a part.
Yes, 100%. Because without those guys, maybe those players aren't there. Like, let's be honest. Like you said it before, pro scouts, amateur scouts. Like, let's talk a guy that's in the business. He was part of a great team that won the cup in 1999, the Dallas Stars. Craig Button. Like he put together a great team down in Dallas. I mean, he wasn't the general manager, but he was part of the staff. Like he recognizes talent. You scout for talent. You find those guys.
Yeah, they drafted Anton Lundell. How did that happen? Like all those things, all those people are deserving.
Absolutely. And maybe we need to acknowledge Bill Zito.
And I have pictures of some of them, and I am going to post them because they deserve to be posted the same as the players. I just haven't gotten around it because I'm busy as hell, but it's going to happen because I want them to get their respect.
Absolutely. 100%. And speaking of respect, I love what Alexander Barkov did after the fact. He all right, they go in, they have that soccer celebration with the trophy, but he gives it to the guys that haven't won it before. And that's a break from tradition, which is really cool to see.
Very cool. Really nice. When you wait a long time for something like that and you get it, it's cool. It's really, really cool.
No, and go back to Bill Zito for a minute, and maybe we have to acknowledge him as like maybe the best GM in the league right now. I mean, he's probably going to win the Jim Gregory Award. It hasn't been announced.
Right now, he's the best GM in the league.
Yeah. But again, we don't know what the voting is, but he'll probably get it. Like, in my opinion.
Even if he doesn't get it, he's the best GM in the league.
He is the best GM in the league. I 100% agree with it. Probably everybody's got to put their finger up acknowledging him. A WWE reference there. But but what he's done and what he's going to continue to do. He has a lot of work this offseason, right? Sam Bennett, Brad Marchand, Aaron Ekblad. Who do you see staying?
And we know Ekblad wants to stay. So will he take a little less to do it? Yeah, he might, and that's maybe where the Florida tax thing will help them for that. But he also wants to be on a winner. Like, he wouldn't be taking less if he was in, I don't know, Nashville, let's say. Would he take less to stay in Nashville because there are no tax state? No, he'd be out of there. Yeah. But it happens to be a winning team, too, so then it really does work out. But it has to be that. Until you are, the other part doesn't matter, right? It's not nearly as important. So, I know people are going to say, well, that's how you get the team together. Well, go look at football. It doesn't work for football. So when it starts working or baseball, then, you can make a bigger stink about it. But I think Ekblad wants to come back. We'll see if that happens. Now, this is legitimate. I mean, Matthew Tkachuk talked about his injuries. We know what they are. I don't need to gross anybody out. I did put up on my Instagram a video clip of him thanking the trainers. And again, they deserve to hoist the cup because without them, there's no way Tkachuk is out there. He didn't skate up the ice in that game, and he didn't need to. He only could play a half-court game. He played in the defensive zone. He went to the bench. He played in the offensive zone. He went to the bench, and he scored a goal. Like, just an unbelievable performance. But if he goes on LTIR and doesn't show up until the playoffs next year, it's legit.
Yeah, it is. I mean, he tore off his. We know what he did.
I'm not going to go there.
Yeah, we know what he did. And look. You have Bennett, You have Marchand. I mean, look, Bennett won the Conn Smythe. His number's going up, but he'll probably get less than Reinhart to stay. And why would he? I mean, he fits that system of what Florida is doing. Why would you leave? I think
he'll get 8.5 from them.
Yeah, maybe less. Who knows?
No, I don't think so.
No, 8.5. You think?
There's a limit.
Yeah, there is a limit. That's true. Especially when you win the Conn Smythe Trophy and put 15 goals up. And yeah, that's the whole thing. And the X factor in this.
Especially if he didn't have a bonus for it, then he's going to be like, yeah, this is a Conn Smythe.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have Marchand. It's kind of an X factor. He brought in at the trade deadline. He likes it there. He fits in well with that team, but teams are going to want to go after him.
Well, we were in the scrum and they asked Bill Zito about it, and he laughed about it because he knows that he wants him. I believe Brad Marchand will be there. I believe that he will look at this like, hey, I was on the outs with Boston. I don't know how I got on the outs with Boston. I think he probably felt that. He didn't say that, folks. That's just me guessing, and I think you would agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
He goes there, took him a little while to maybe find his way, learn the offense, all that good stuff. Because even towards the end of the regular season, he wasn't lighting it up like this, and then he fit. And now he's a leader for them. So I do believe he will take less to stay. And he's at that point in his career. He's made plenty of money. So
yeah, he has. And he's played well. And look, the Florida Panthers are going to be around for a while, especially with the cap going
I'm not
up.
making any proclamations about that. I made that mistake in 2004. I said, hey, the Tampa Bay Lightning, they could do this for years. And then 10 minutes after, Nikolai Hobby-Bulin was gone. And it's like, uh-oh.
Yeah,
Graham was the goalie. Of course, they're going to get along with Graham, and it didn't happen after that, right?
Yeah,
I don't know what's going to happen, so I'm not making any proclamations.
No, but I was going to say just the way the cap is going to go up, and they're going to have some money coming off the books, but the way guys are signed to their deals going forward, and they're going to have the cap space to potentially keep this thing going. I'm not saying they're going to win Islanders 4 straight cups. I'm not saying that because
they're going to have to win. They're going to have to win another to be a dynasty, because I don't call a team a dynasty unless they have at least 3. 3 is what starts a dynasty.
Yes, absolutely. 100% agree. And they're going to be able to keep their young foundation together. And say for instance,
3 with the same team. I want to just say that in case people want to try and poke holes. It's 3 with that same, essentially the same group.
No, 100%. I agree with that 100%. And you look at it, and you look at Lundell's going to be there. Barkov's going to be there. Forsling's there, all signed. I mean, these Seth Jones is on that back end. They'll be able to, be a steady playoff team, a steady contender every year. And it took them time to do it. I'm not saying they're winning again next year, but I wouldn't bet against them because we know what they can do in the playoffs come playoff time. And when they find their game, they can be as dominant as any cup champ in the past.
Yeah, but I kind of want to play this back to pre-playoffs Jim Biringer, and you didn't pick them to win the Stanley Cup.
No,
did I?
Neither did. No, I 100%. I didn't think they were going to win a cup. I didn't like the way they
were worried about the path they'd have to take.
Right, because Tampa was legitimately looking better than they were.
Yes,
100%. I would say if you asked a lot of people entering the playoffs who they would have picked in that series, outside of the guys that worked for Florida or covered that team, most people thought Tampa was going to beat the Panthers.
Yep.
Because of, the injuries. We don't know about Tkachuk. Reinhart was banged up. What's Bennett going to look like? The goaltending. And realistically, if it wasn't
once they won that, I didn't bet against them. Because then I was like, all right, I see now.
But if you go back to game 4, the 2 goals in 30 seconds is really what changed that series because Tampa was winning that game. And then that flips the series, and it was all she wrote. And then they're off to back-to-back Stanley Cup championships. Moving back to the Oilers for a second, before we go around the league real quick, the goaltending issue in Edmonton. We talked about player personnel. Kenny Holland's going to have his full offseason to do this. Ken Holland's out. Stan Bowman's going to have a full offseason to do this thing.
Yeah.
Priority number 1, get a goaltender.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a horrible offseason to get a goalie. Again, I have to give the same names when I go on every show. Try for John Gibson. Are they trading him to Edmonton? No.
Yeah.
All right. Try for Thatcher Demko. Are they going to trade him to Edmonton? Probably not. All right. Who are we looking at? Jake Allen. I don't know. You said the Devils may re-sign him. Maybe they outbid him from the Devils. But again, is he going to win it for you? No. Is Cal Picker maybe your number 1 if somebody else is the number 2 and you split it? Okay, I mean, maybe you could make an argument it's better than what they've had, but it's not really what we could look at as a huge upgrade or any kind of upgrade, just maybe a change in philosophy. So it's hard. It's like, are you going to get Devin Levi? Are you going to sign him to he can't get signed to an offer sheet. So they have to not, there's some other things that have to happen before you could even do that. So if Buffalo re-signs Devin Levi, it's all over anyhow. So we'll see how that goes. Are you going to try and trade for Devin Levi? I mean, with this group, you can't put in a rookie goalie.
No,
that's not going to work. So who the hell are you going to get? Charlie Lindgren? Is that going to win you a Stanley Cup? I mean, I'm sure we would have said the same thing about Aiden Hill, but I don't know. I don't know who you're going to get.
No, it's true, and they're in a predicament right now, and they're up against the cap, and they have to sign some players, and McDavid's contract extension talks, and Bouchard's extension. They have to figure out the salary cap there, and we're seeing that over in our area with the New York Rangers. They moved out Chris Kreider to move them to Anaheim. Another, he joins his buddies there, Ryan Strome, Jacob Trouba are there, and you look at it and you say, okay, what else is next for this team? Do you see them moving out Miller or a guy like Zibanejad?
Miller's getting moved. They're going to try and move Zibanejad. Like, that's a hard one. I said probably to you a year ago they were going to move Zibanejad if they could. And so far they haven't been able to. So I believe they want to. I don't know if they're going to get it done, though. Not because he can't play. He did at least rehab his season somewhat last year, but not enough. So between that and the salary, it's tough. I don't know how much he wants to stay there, but he probably wants to stay there more than some other teams. So probably have to be the right team. He holds the hammer, I believe, right? Contract-wise.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, so he's a tricky one. Miller, they could trade if they want. He's an RFA. If they decide that they don't want to give him the kind of deal he's looking for, I get it. But, and this is the but, if you don't get somebody who is a better replacement, then you better sign him to a bridge deal. And at least at that point, you've set his market value. And once you set his market value, you could trade him at any time, but you still need to start that season with him because you don't have any better options.
No, I agree with you. And look, the more and more the stuff comes out, the more and more I see what we've talked about the Rangers and the mutiny and and the self-sabotage, as I like to call it, of their team this season. Because as you said earlier back in the season, 12-5-1 is not the time to change a philosophy. Nope. Because you were still in the playoff picture.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it really, it ruffled feathers in the wrong way. Again, you have to be very careful as a GM with personalities in the room. And, just to kind of emphasize a different point, it's changed how the room is. The room's different from maybe when Chris Drury played to now. Things are different. And so I think he's finding that out.
Yeah. Staying in the area, the New York Islanders have the number 1 overall pick heading into the NHL draft.
I've heard that.
I've heard that, right? I think they got that. Was that a bone that they got because the NHL canceled the All-Star game on them?
No,
exactly. We'll put that one to bed. But that conspiracy.
I heard the Patrick Ewing stuff. That's how old I am, right? So I don't want to hear
it. Yeah. But they have the number 1 overall pick. Where do you think all right, let me rephrase this.
Go ahead.
Who do you think they should take, but what will they do?
Right. So they'll take Matthew Schaefer for a variety of reasons. Like, he is a great player, no question. I'm not going to say he's generational because I don't believe it. I do think he's excellent, though, right? So, yeah, anytime you get a top-pairing defenseman, I can't argue with you that that's a bad pick. I think they should take James Higgins, not because he's a Long Island guy. Not that at all. Not because he said he wants to help bring the Islanders a cup. No, just because I think he's the most talented with the highest ceiling still. And so, again, I get it. A 1D over, and I don't know if Higgins is a 1C. He might be a first-line winger or a second-line center, which is fine. I mean, nobody complains about Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Maybe they did for a little while, but the point is, I would still take Higgins. Like, again, I've watched him a lot. I only got to see as much as I could see of Schaefer in recent years, and this year it wasn't as much. I admit that. But it wasn't as much for all of us. You can go back to his 15 year, and my answer to that is, well, why wasn't anybody talking about that 15 year a year ago when they were saying Higgins is the number one. I didn't hear any of that discussion. Maybe it was out there, but I missed it. So there's that. And so I look at Higgins and he's playing against, on the average, 21-year-old guys. In the CHL, he's playing against 18-and-a-half-year-old guys. That is a factor. Like, there's no way around that. Again, I've gone through it ad nauseum, how he performed this year, and it was really good. He got a gold medal in the World Juniors, and that was like, whatever, dude. You didn't show it enough. Okay, he was more than a point a game. Like, I just feel like it got to the point where he couldn't do enough to hold on to that spot, at least in the prospect people's eyes, people like me. I'm not trying to buck the trend either. Like, I'm not that buck the trend guy. I believe who I believe, and I've always done that. And so, like, the year that I put Brady Tkachuk second, nobody had him second, or at least nobody I knew of. And I'm sure people were saying I was an idiot then. I could go back to when I was with Comcast, and I did mock drafts for them, which I don't love to do a mock draft. But I am going to go up against Shane Malloy next Tuesday, and I'm going to whoop his ass. I don't want to say that. But getting past that, I said in that mock draft that Nathan MacKinnon was going to be the number one. Some guy, some internet guy puts on a message, and he goes, I'll sell my house if Seth Jones is not the number one. I'll sell my house because you're completely wrong. He's going to be the first overall. Nathan MacKinnon was the first overall. I did not go online and ask the guy for his house. I could have, but I don't do that because everybody's entitled to their opinion, and that's that. So these are my opinions. I try not to look at anybody else's lists. Yes, I do go to EP meetings and such, so I'm exposed to whatever, but I try not to even be influenced by that. I have a little bit of different way of doing it. I've been transparent about that on Locked On Flyers. I kind of tell everybody how I do it. And so that's it. This is just the way it's come out. And this is what I believe. I'm not trying to match what NHL teams do. That's not why I do this. I just do it from the perspective of what would I do? How would I deal with it? I use like the interview process too, in a way, as a part of this, because I want to see a guy's, mental makeup and everything else, maturity, all that good stuff. Right. So yeah, everybody has their own method, and that's fine. So that's why I have Higgins number one. I still would have number one after all that I know now. I'm not changing it, and we'll find out in 4 or 5 years. That's how it works.
No, I 100% agree. And that's the way I would go, me personally. And all of a sudden, like, the buzz is back around this kid because it seems like everybody wants to, like, jump back up in the top 10 to trade for him. And, like, they're smoked at the Islanders. Well, take one pick and then try to get him. And they do need offense. And that's why I would lean towards Higgins. But again, they want to obviously they're probably going to try to keep Dobson. And what do they do with Romanoff? And if they move him on, it makes sense to take Schaefer. But again, they need offense. This kid, as you told me, this kid, when you saw him in Buffalo, he bulked up a little bit from the time throughout the year. And that was similar to what you saw in Lane Hudson, right?
Yes, very similar. I got a chance to see Lane Hudson in like a warm-up shirt, so then I really saw what Lane Hudson looks like. I'm guessing Higgins looks like that too. And I knew Hudson had all this other ability, and I took him out of my first round because I was like, all right, there's a few questions. I'm going to keep him in the second round. He went in the second round, but now we all will admit he probably shouldn't have gone in the second round. But that's okay. I mean, that's a part of this game. You could only project so much or put the pieces together so much, but I try not to make the same mistake twice. Doesn't mean I don't, because I have. But I feel like with this guy, it's like, why do I feel differently? Like, remember, with Michael Misa, as an example, 2 years ago, well, not 2 years ago, a year ago, after the Memorial Cup, it was kind of like, I don't know, he wasn't that great. Now he puts up like 125 points, and everybody's like, Michael Misa's better. Maybe not. I'm pretty sure if James Higgins was in the OHL, he'd put up a lot of points, just like that. So I'm not going to debate that. And actually, what I find funny is because I really like Michael Misa to the point where Grok thinks I do too. Because I was curious the other day and put my name into Grok, and it said believes in Michael Misa, and that goes back to last year after the Memorial Cup when I said I do believe in Michael Misa. So clearly, it picked up on that tweet, and so yes, so I still would take Higgins over Misa, but I do like Michael Misa a lot. Don't get me wrong.
No, there's gonna be some good talent at the top of this draft coming in next week. Do you think? Because the last couple of years we really haven't seen like too many big trades happen within the first round. And do you think some fireworks will happen this year at the draft, or do we think it's going to be like
if it happens, it's going to have to happen by like Wednesday, because everybody's going to be traveling like that Thursday to set up their places wherever they're going to go, their practice centers, different cities, whatever. And it's going to be hard to contact. Now first round you have a little more time. Second round you're not. And so depending on how communication is, everything, I believe things were, probably talked about with the GMs at the combine because they were all there, right? And most of the GMs leave when the media comes at the combine. A few stay, Greer stayed. There were a few that stayed, but most go back. And most just leave that combine stuff up to their scouts and assistant GMs and such. But don't kid yourself. They all talked. And they either laid the groundwork or have something set up so they can kind of do it quickly. So I think if it gets done, I would think before, Thursday, because I think on that day, it's going to be harder just because of logistics. Now, of course, you could say someone could text somebody, whatever, but you've got to still check with your cap guy. You still got to check on the medicals. You still got to things take time. So I think a lot of that has to be vetted in advance.
Right. And one more
before medicals, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Is if you're trading for a roster player, you're trading, not these guys. They have the medicals on these guys from the combine. It's the other pieces that might be involved.
Yeah, so all the cap structure, how the cap works, how everybody fits into your cap, who you trading for, like all that stuff. Like that makes sense.
And the summer cap's higher, but you still have to fit it under, when you get to the training camp.
Mm-hmm. And here's the thing for me. Like, if you look at it, before we get to the Marner thing, but if you look at it, we mentioned the no tax stuff before. Well, the Dallas Stars, and by the way, shout out to you for the quote tweet you had on the Zetterlund contract, Fabian Zetterlund's 3-year deal with the Ottawa Senators. I believe, $4.275 million. That's a good contract for a player.
Heck of a deal. Really underrated offensive player. Like, he's a good player.
And he puts in the work off the ice, too. He really puts in the work. He wants to work. He's played, he gets traded from San Jose, and I think he's going to fit in with the Ottawa Senators.
I kind of think there was some regret after. Like, I know they had to do it because, they're changing around their team, whatever. But, I'm sure if you ask fans, they're probably not thrilled.
No, well, go ask Devils fans. They still want him on the team.
Right.
So I mean, that tells you how much praise he's getting. But we mentioned the no tax stuff, and you look at Dallas. They signed Matt Duchene, 4-year deal, $4.5 million, 30, almost going to be 35. It's like, you're in the cap trouble. And now, does Marchment go? Does, Labushkin, Dumba? They have a lot of issues now with the cap.
Those three will go.
They have to.
Yeah. But I am a big supporter of Matt Duchene. I really like him. I don't like the term.
Me either.
I can't support the term. The contract, yes, he's definitely, and he probably took less because he's getting the term. So he could live down there the next 3-4 years. I get it. But if I'm Dallas, I wouldn't have given him that fourth. The fourth year is too much. That's a step too far for me.
Well, it's like we saw last year before, before July 1st, when we saw it on July 1st, Marchessault got 5 years. Foley got 4 years. Guys are 34 years old. Teams like Vegas, Montreal, New Jersey.
How's the Marchessault deal look now?
Doesn't look great. Doesn't look great. And Vegas, Montreal, New Jersey all wanted him, but only went at 3 years.
I mean, if nothing else, the Nashville Predators should be a cautionary tale.
It is. You don't overspend on July 1st.
But the Nashville Predators haven't even learned because they got Eric Holla.
Yeah. They made that trade. But the Devils needed salary cap space because they needed to sign Luke Hughes and change their roster.
How old's Eric Holla?
Mid-30s. 35 years old.
Like, what are we doing here? Nashville, what are you doing? Are you not even resetting? Like, what are we doing?
We're just taking on. Are they the new Arizona Coyotes? Going to just take on cap space? Maybe. But so before we wrap this up, Mitch Marner, he's going to be the top free agent this offseason.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, I've heard of him. Right, we've heard of him. Played in Toronto. Gets flack for playing in Toronto.
Used to play in Toronto. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's not going to play there anymore. Where do you think he ends up?
I really think Utah has been my first choice. So I think Utah is the one that really screams to me. We all know it's kind of like most likely West Coast. It has to be a team that could fit him under the cap. It has to be a team where he's pretty much the top dog, and because you're going to pay him like the top dog. And so I think it's Utah. I really do. It could be LA. It could be one of those other teams. It could be Vegas because they'll find someone to put on an LTIR. He'll go to Carolina. He'll drive up his price as much as he can to try and get Carolina to say, we want you to come. He wants to go there, but we know he's probably not going to go there.
No.
For the same reason a lot of big stars don't go there. Like, it's not a big city. So Carolina tries to court these guys and it fails. It doesn't fail because they have a bad structure, and it doesn't fail because they have a bad coach. All that stuff is good. But there is this other factor with players. Like, hey, and it's a good place to live. It's a nice place, but players think it's boring.
They do.
And that's, unfortunately, that is something that works against them. Buffalo has that same problem. Now, when you're winning, you're winning, right?
Yeah.
Buffalo was a great place when they were winning. So any place could be a great place, Winnipeg included, when you're winning. But when you're not, guys start looking at those other ancillary factors. And, it's unfortunate. So that's why Carolina still has to kind of build through the draft and get guys that do want to play there and make that part of it work and actually upgrade their goaltending, which they haven't done in 3 years and they probably can't do this offseason, but should have done like at least 2 years ago. And they doubled down and kept Freddie too. So it's like,
what are we doing? Last one on this, Columbus. I know we saw what happened with Johnny Gaudreau, rest in peace. Tragedy with him, but he kind of reset things because Columbus was on nobody's radar, and then he goes there. Could you see like a scenario where Marner maybe goes there and raises that team? No? Okay.
No, I mean, look, that team is doing well. A lot of those young guys are doing well. Fantilli's doing great. I think some of the others will start to follow, but I don't think they're going to get a name like Marner. But they could get like, Nikolai Ehlers or somebody. That's possible. But I don't know if they're going to go in that heavy. I think they're kind of waiting for their drafted guys and everything else to click. They're getting closer. So I don't see them going for a massive contract. That's just me. I could be wrong.
Yeah, no, we'll see. But I agree with you. I think he goes out west, and I think that's where he wants to stay.
You don't play the Leafs much either.
No, you don't see him. You see him twice, and that's all you need. And
he doesn't be like,
yeah.
I'm not going to even travel to Toronto. I can't make it this year.
Yeah, I can't make it this year. Sorry, guys. But Russ, always a pleasure.
I don't think he would do that. I'm kidding around.
No, I don't think he would do it either. Look, he's gonna get the treatment when he gets back. His first game back, wherever he signs.
Sure.
But again, just get it over with. Hopefully the schedule makers do the right thing and put it out of the way early, like they did with Stamkos with the Lightning.
What I would
just
do.
Get it out of the way.
And if I were Mitch Marner, I would tape up my stick with $100 bills, American bills, and I would tape up my stick with that for warm-ups.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be a sight to see. Some great personality we see from these players. That would be funny.
Yeah, but that's what I would do.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we would do. Definitely.
I'm going to get booed anyhow, so let me have some fun.
Exactly. I love it. Russ, what do you got on tap this week?
This week, we're doing Locked On Flyers still, and we're getting more draft stuff in there. We've done over 50 prospects already on Locked On Flyers. It's a lot. And so I don't, other than Hockey Prospect Radio, which is the king, I don't know many other programs that have probably done that many. I'm sure there's a few, but so we're doing that. No OTP until next week. We'll do that. We got one more before the draft. Who else? What else? Trying to think. I have some.
You're gonna kick Shane Malloy's ass again on Sirius.
Well, I don't even need to say that once. Everybody knows that. Rocket Sports. I am going to do an interview with Rocket Sports about the draft. They were the other one I was trying to think of. And if I've left somebody else out, sorry. My schedule keeps getting busier every day. So, but it's all good. I love it. This is the best time of the year. I can't wait to go to LA. I'm going to have fun, and I always have fun. That's my thing. Say whatever you want about me. It's fine. I could take it. I have fun. This is what I love doing.
No, Russ, we appreciate you putting us a time in there for me on the schedule to, because I know you're a busy guy, so we appreciate you coming on.
Hey, anytime.
Guys, this has been the Full Press NHL Podcast. Get it up on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast with the great Russ Cohen. Get him, sportsology.com, NHLDraftBuzz.com, Locked On Flyers, SiriusXM, Elite Prospects as well. Russ, thank you again.
Thank you.
Full Press Hockey Coverage with Jim Biringer.